All right, so continuing on from last week, if you tuned in last week, I went over and I talked about the story of Jesus calming the storm and how these disciples got into a boat in the middle of the Sea of Galilee. They hit this storm, they freak out, they realize they're going to die, and then Jesus stands up, calms the storm, and the disciples are just afraid, but yet at the same time, they're just, who is this man? And Jesus looks at them and says, hey, where is your faith? He doesn't say, how much faith do you have? He says, where is your faith? And so again, it's about, he tells the disciples, look, you have to get this faith thing right. You have to understand it. It's not about how much faith you have, but it's about where you put your faith in that matters most. And so the disciples kind of learned, they were in game time mode. They learned the hard way, and it's not over. So Jesus says, okay, we need to finish what we started, get the boat to the other side of the lake. We can't go back. And so that's where we're going to be today. When they show up when that boat hits the beach, they are remembering that this is a place that they should not be. They shouldn't be here. They've heard the stories. They've seen what again, it's a place that you don't go during the day alone, and if you don't go at all at night. They've seen the stories. They've seen the people getting beat up, possibly even killed. You stay away from this place at all costs. Don't go there, and they find themselves on a boat hitting that beach. And it didn't take long for those stories to be true. It didn't take long for all of a sudden those screams to get louder and louder. And in full sprint, naked man running right towards them. What a way to start off church. Story of a naked man. I get it. That wakes us all of us up, right? So they're seeing this man, again, with the crazy eyes, more animalistic than human, hair all messed up, beard messed up, cuts, bruises all over his body. And yet, it's not something strange to us. It's something we probably have seen before. We know that mental health is a big deal. We know we've seen it in people, maybe homeless people, maybe we struggle with this in our families, but it's along those lines. And I'm not saying mental health and the demonic are the same thing. I'm not. But it can be. There can be an influence over this. So my first intro into mental health, I got to work for a school for emotionally disturbed boys. And again, it was all about, it was a level 14 school and hospital treatment center. And these kids, they just, basically my job was to go in there and protect the teachers and other students from getting beat up or stabbed or all those kind of things. I didn't want the job. I had an interview. I was scared. I tried to fail the interview. I didn't want it. I wanted nothing to do with the school. And, by the grace of God or the miracle of God, I got the job. That's a story for another day. But I got the job. I go there my first day, and they tell me, you're not to do nothing. Just sit and watch. Don't talk. Don't engage. Don't do nothing. And they kept hammering that in me. I'm like, oh, don't worry. You don't have to tell me. I'm just going to sit in a chair and get paid for it. Awesome. So, again, over and over, don't do nothing. Don't do nothing. I meet the teacher. She's this small, petite girl in the classroom just filled with these giant boys. And she goes, whatever you do, whatever happens, don't do anything. You're not trained. I'm like, got it. I don't know, maybe it was an hour and a half into the day, and all of a sudden this door slams open. I can remember because there's no windows in the classroom. The door slams open, the light just pierces, blinds us all, and the kid just starts jumping on another kid and just starts wailing on him. Full-on fist fight starts in the middle of the class, didn't even see it coming. The small teacher tries to get in between them. I stand up because I'm like, oh, what do I do? And she stops worrying about that and tells me, sit back down. Don't do anything. I'm like, oh, okay. What felt like an eternity, all of a sudden these big giant men came through the door, grabbed the kids, and were going to escort them out of the classroom. And I remember as one kid, the kid that came in, was getting pulled out of the classroom. like our eyes locked, and I see the craziness in the eyes. I see like, okay, there's something off about this kid, obviously than just what he just did. But as he's walking out, getting like escorted out, he looks at me, he says, I'm coming for you next, potato. I didn't know what to say. The kid gets taken out. All the other kids just go back to work as if nothing happened. The teacher comes up to me laughing and says, hey, you got off pretty easy. Potato's not bad. You're going to be called a lot worse in your time here. And I go home that night, and I look in the mirror, and I'm like, potato? I'm like, yeah, I guess. Yeah, I see it. All right, well, whatever. I mean, yeah, I was called worse, but I'll never forget that first moment, my first interaction with mental health. And I had a lot to learn. I had a lot of adjusting. I was a youth leader at the time. I was working with the youth group, and I remember like would come from that job, come to youth group, and be like, these kids are such angels. Like, I see the night and day. And it was a weird time in my life, but it was a good time. And again, it was something that God had put me in for a purpose, and I didn't see it at the time. But so continuing on in this story, continuing the story of this demon-possessed man, if you have your Bibles, we're going to be in Mark today. This story is in 3 of the Gospels. I feel like Mark tells it best. And so that's where we are at. Chapter 5, verse 3. It said, this man lived in the tombs, and no one could bind him anymore, not even with a chain, for he had often been chained hand and foot. But he tore the chains apart, broke the irons on his feet. No one was strong enough to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and in the hills, he would cry out and cut himself with stones. This passage or this story gives us a really clear depiction of the demonic possessed man. He's been like this a long time. He had no clothes. He lived more like an animal than he did a human. He had supernatural strength, which, I don't know, hard to explain that one, but he was able to break the chains. Nothing can hold him. He was tormented and self-destructive night and day. He had uncontrollable behavior. And the sad thing is that what we can look at is that this man didn't start out this way. This isn't how he was created to be. This was somebody's son. This was somebody's friend, maybe coworker. But he didn't start out this way. He wasn't born this way. It just kind of happened. In the village, at some point, who knows what happened? I mean, he could have been in a situation to where, he started kind of acting a little weird and erotic. He probably got to the point to where other people didn't want to be around him, and then he was isolated. Then he didn't want to be around other people. He then got to the point to where he was being a little violent, and then they had to bind him. They had to restrain him, but they couldn't hold him. And then it got to the point where the village said, we can't have you here. You're not safe. And then they kicked him out. And that was it. You go live amongst the tombs. You're no longer part of our community anymore. They took away his mind. They took away his dignity. They took away his relationship, his freedom, and they took away all hope. Not the people, the demons. They did that to him. And again, we don't know how or why that started, but I will say this, and this is a word on just, I kind of want to address this, and I don't want to spend a lot of time with this about demonic possession. So if anyone of you at home are thinking, well, man, I don't want that to happen to me. I'm freaked out. I'm going to be looking all over my shoulder. I don't want this. Well, good. I don't want that either. But if you accepted Christ and Christ has done that work in you and the Holy Spirit now resides in you and you've asked Christ into your heart, then you're fine. You will never be demonically possessed. That is something you don't have to worry about. Why? Because you have freedom. Don't have to worry about it. Christ freed you from that. It's almost like you now have an antivirus in you that will stop that. you're free from it. But there is a spirit world. There is a time, who knows what's going on right now above this church, the battles, or in our city, in your homes. There is a spiritual world where things are going on. Now, can you be influenced by them? Can they lie to you? Can they trick you? Yes, but you'll never be possessed. So just forget about it because you're free. So your actions are still your own. But like I said, there is a spirit world. I can remember years ago, back when I was like in the college group, we were up there, we were praying, and there was a guy that was teaching and leading worship. And all of a sudden he stopped and he said, "Hey, I'm going to do something weird." And we're like, "Oh, okay, what are you going to do?" And he started praying for us. And he's praying for all of us there, and he was praying for specific things, and he like prayed for someone's feet and said some things, and prayed for someone's hands and said some things, and head and all sorts of things. There was something specific for each of us. And then he gets to me, and he prays over my eyes. And he says, "I pray that Michael sees in the spirit world. I pray that he's able to see those things." And I remember when he was done praying with that, I'm like, "Hey, that's cool. It's like I'm going to be like a Ghostbuster. I'm going to see like all these demons and all these crazy things. I'm going to use the power of God. And I'm going to destroy it all." But then I started thinking like, "Oh man, I really don't want to see that stuff. Like that's going to freak me out. You know, like do I really want to live my life with seeing all the evil or seeing people that I know with big old demons attached to them? I don't know if I want to see that." And so I went through this whole thing of like accepting, not accepting, all that kind of stuff. But the truth is I never saw crazy, winged beasts or anything like that. And it wasn't until a couple years later I realized what it really was he was praying over me. See, when I was working at that school, we had a kid, and the only way I can describe him is that he is 100% diabolical. Like he knew how to get at us no matter what. He knew the things to say, he knew the chaos that he could create, and he was just one of the hardest kids to be around. And when he would do something and we would ask him, "Hey," I'm going to call him Michael. That's not his real name, but I'll call him Michael, safe. I would say, "Hey," we'd say, "Michael, we need you to go outside, de-escalate, calm down, and you can come back in the classroom." He would lose it and then run. Knowing that he's chasing us, he would weave in and out through the classroom, slapping other kids on the face as he's running by, knowing that when those kids get slapped, now they're going to get upset, and we'd have to deal with them before we could deal with him. The kid, in other words, I don't know how else to say it, but the kid was a genius. A genius at chaos. And he was hard to be around. There were four of us. There were four friends that we worked with that we were really close, and all of us wanted to be pastors. We were all either youth leaders, and we all wanted to be youth pastors, and we worked in churches, and so we were all kind of around him. And so one day, he finally kind of hit a breaking point to where now he had to be hospitalized. And so on this campus with the school, there was also a hospital, and we had to carry him over so we each took a limb and had to carry him over because he wasn't going to go on his own. So we had to carry him into the hospital, and I kid you not, it's just like the movies. It's that you walk in, you get that nasty bleach smell that hits you. It's the smell that you're like, "Hey, this is supposed to be clean, but it's still really dirty." You know what I mean? It's like the stuff you smell after someone throws up because they're trying to hide the nastiness. Hits you in the face. It's cold. It's dark. The room we go in, it's like the padded room, cinder blocks, the cold steel table we had to put the kid on, and it was just like the movies. They got it right. Not a place I'd want to be. And so we're in there. The nurses are talking to him. They're doing their intake. And finally they leave, and now it's just us. It's the five of us, the four friends, and the kid. And I'll never forget this. The guy that had the arm, he says, "Michael," again, he's talking to the kid, not me. He says, "I need you to listen to me more than you've ever listened to me right now." And he just starts unloading life into the boy. he starts just telling him, like, this will not define you. Just do what you have to do and get out. Do the work and get out, because this isn't you. This will not define you. You're not going to be ruined by this. And the kid is just spewing back hate, just cussing at us, spitting at us, saying those things, because he knew he worked at churches. He knew he worked with other kids, and just using that, like, you call yourselves Christian, look what you're doing, you're hurting kids. I mean, he just knew how to get to us to the core. He's spewing it back. And then I'll never forget, at that moment, I felt God say to me, and I've never had like God say, in audible voices too many times in my life, but it's happened on a handful of times. And it was in this moment, I remember God saying, what you're seeing, that's not him. And then I got it. I remembered that prayer that guy prayed over me, and it wasn't about like me seeing giant winged beasts and monsters and demons and all that kind of stuff and being this mighty warrior for God. It was just God saying, you're going to see who people really are. And that what you're seeing is not who he is. It's not who I've created him to be, and it's not who he's going to be in the future. I don't know how much longer it was, but the doctors finally came in. We let go, and we walked out. One of my friends, as soon as we walked out of that building, he just collapsed and started sobbing. The other guys, I was speechless. I didn't know what to do. I was walking around like a zombie. What did I just see? What did I just experience? What is what I did right? Did we have the right to even do this? There's so many emotions going through us, but we were wrecked. We were wrecked with that situation. And with this story, again, we're in a place where Jesus brings the disciples to a place that the disciples say, we're not supposed to be here. We don't go here. We know what happens here. Stay away from here. Why are we here? There are demons here, Jesus. And Jesus says, no, they're not demons. They're people. They're not demons. And this is where we continue. Verse 6. When he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and fell on his knees in front of him. He shouted at the top of his voice, what do you want from me, Jesus, Son of the Most High, God? In God's name, don't torture me. For Jesus had said to him, come out of this man, you impure spirit. Then Jesus asked him, what is your name? He goes, my name is Legion. I know you guys have seen scary movies, right? I know. It's that part in the movie where he looks back, he's all jacked up, he says those crazy words, and your chills in the back of your neck. All right. He says, I'm Legion, for we are many. And he begged Jesus again and again not to send them out of the area. A large herd of pigs was feeding on the nearby hillside. The demons begged Jesus, send us among the pigs. Allow us to go into them. Imagine, again, I really want you to imagine yourself as a disciple. You're on this beach. You see the naked man. All of a sudden, he's coming full sprint to Jesus, and you're just like, what do we do? Look, we really blew it in the whole storm thing, so we want to look like we have faith, but we're scared, so what do? We're just standing there probably looking at each other. Do we get out of here? Jesus, when do we get back in the boat? We need to get out of here. He's coming, he's coming, he's coming, he's coming. Finally, he hits, and they don't want to blow this whole faith thing again, so they make sure, okay, well, we're just going to make sure we're behind Jesus before this guy gets here. And the guy gets there, and it's not an attack, it's not a fight. The guy just falls to his knees. Falls to his knees. And if it was the demons, I feel like the demon would have kept the guy away. Keep him in the tombs, keep him isolated. But I don't know if it was something that that this guy felt that maybe the demons inside him started to be fearful, that he just took off towards Jesus. See, it wasn't the demons that were coming towards Jesus. It was that man, the last shred of humanity that was running towards him, that wanted that freedom. And so I don't know who you are. I don't know what you've done, but all I know is that my problems are scared of you. So I'm coming towards you, and I'm going to fall to my knees. And he falls to his knees, and get this, then the demons go into overdrive. They say, what do you want from me, Son of the Most High God? Don't torture me, as if they're painting Jesus to be the bad guy. Look, he's here to torture us. He's going to torture you too. Don't torture us. Jesus torturing, come on. But the demons begged. Now, when Jesus says, what's your name? They say legion. Now, a legion in those days is anywhere between 3,000 to 6,000 Roman soldiers. I don't know if that's how many demons were in the guy. Could have been more, could have been less, but all we do know is that there was a lot. There was more than one. It was a very specific circumstance. So he says the name, who we are. Jesus knows what he's going with, and Jesus puts him in the pigs. Now, to clear something up, Jesus is not giving in to the demons and saying like, oh, okay, I'll listen to you, go into the pigs. That's not the case. All right, and I'll get to the reason why Jesus put him in the pigs. Right, but I know it looks like he's saying, okay, yeah, whatever you say, demons, just go into the pigs. But that's, again, Jesus didn't have a heart for the demons. All right, he wasn't doing their bidding. But the pigs did. They would rather kill themselves than have those demons in them. And they jumped off the cliff and drowned themselves. Crazy. Continuing on, verse 14. It says, those tending the pigs ran off and reported this in the town of the countryside. And the people, He gave them permission of the impure spirits to come out and went into the pigs. The herd of about 2,000 in number rushed down the steep bank and into the lake and drowned. Those tending the pigs ran off and reported this to the town and the countryside, and the people went out to see what had happened. When they came to Jesus, they saw the man who had been possessed by the legion of demons, sitting there dressed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. Those who had seen it had told the people what had happened to the demon-possessed man and told them about the pigs as well. Then the people began to plead with Jesus to leave their region. As Jesus was getting into the boat, the man who had been demon-possessed begged to go with him. Imagine you're a pig farmer, and you're in your normal pig farming day, and you're just going through life, and all of a sudden the pigs that you're responsible for start getting louder, start acting a little weird, and you don't know what to do. Then all of a sudden you just see them take off over a cliff and drown themselves. You would not know what to do. You freak out. You run to the town as fast as you can, and you see the demon-possessed man who's now normal and in his right mind and clothed, Bible says, back into his right mind. They run to town, and they go, guys, you'll never believe this. You know Crazy Larry? And they're like, oh, yeah, Crazy Larry lives in the tombs. Yeah, the one who licks all the doorknobs at church. Just joking. Like, yeah, we know Crazy Larry. Well, he's not crazy anymore. He's perfectly normal. What? No way. Oh, yeah. And guess what? You know your pigs? Yeah, what about my pigs? Well, you're going to have to see this. And so they rush out there to see this sight, to see what's going on. And they see him, and the Bible says that they are afraid. They have the exact same reaction that the disciples had when they saw the storm. Only it didn't take long for them to change their mind. They're like, whoa, Crazy Larry's okay. But wait, all my money's gone. You killed all my pigs. Oh, we got to get you out of here. Who did this? Who's responsible for this? They know who it was. They get Jesus out. See, they were afraid. They were more afraid of the right-minded man than they were the demon-possessed man. They did not like what Jesus came to do, and they asked him to leave. They got upset, even though Jesus was there to bring them freedom, to bring people freedom. No, you don't mess with my bottom dollar. You got to go. But the man says, Jesus, I am all in. I am all in. I want to follow you. I want to be the 13th disciple. Let me come with you in the boat. You have saved my life. I've had this experience of freedom, and now I want to come with you. Tell me what you need, and I will do it. Jesus did not let him, but said, go home to your own people and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has had mercy on you. So the man went away and began to tell in the Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him, and all the people were amazed. Well, that's not how that was supposed to go. Maybe sometimes the most spiritual thing we can get is no. Is no. The word that we all hate, right? It can be very spiritual. This man, again, just had a life-changing moment, and he wanted to be with Jesus as much as he could, follow him, learn from him. He was all in. There was no going back. Maybe he was a little scared too. Maybe he thought, 2 weeks, 3 weeks from now, when he's sitting alone, you'll start hearing things, and you'll start to freak out. Are they back? Are these the demons again? And Jesus says, no, that's why I killed the pigs. You're free. They're dead. They're not coming back. You have a visual reminder of your healing. They're not coming back. See, when the Son sets you free, you are free indeed. Don't worry about it. That's why those pigs died. That's why Jesus allowed them to get in the pigs, to show that man, you are 100% free. And so the man goes off to be the very first Gentile evangelist in his region. The Bible says he goes off, tells people of his story, and they are amazed. So what do we do with this? What a testimony this guy has, right? I mean, think about it. We don't ever know his name. He obviously had a name, but for what we know in history is that he's now the man who has been healed from many demons. What a name. What a testimony. What a story. So Jesus gets back in the boat and leaves the area and leaves the power of the testimony in this guy's hands. The man who was possessed by many demons. Again, what a name. Who was possessed. The disciples are never mentioned in this story. Why? Because I don't think they ever got off the boat. I think they were just we're good here. Lesson learned. We get it. But they go back. And Jesus said, look, this is what we're about. This is what we do. We're here to bring freedom. Now, he showed them one of the most extreme cases you could see of bondage and enslavement by the enemy. But he said, this is what we're about. Whether people know that they're in bondage or not, the enemy does. And he wants to isolate us. Why? Because God based his whole creation on community and relationship and being intimate in the garden with his creation. It's all about community with God. But the enemy wants to isolate us, convince us that we're better alone. He wants us to disfigure us, like the man who would cut himself, scar himself, change us, convince us that we're not good enough, that we can be better, or you shouldn't be like that. Why does the enemy attack that? Well, it's because we share the image of God. We bear his image. He doesn't like that. And the ultimate goal of the enemy is to kill us. He wants us dead. Why? Well, because we are his very special possession. We are his. And for the enemy to say, I can't hurt God, so I'm going to hurt his kids. We're his special possession. So what did the disciples learn? What did they learn in this story? Because again, I feel like the storm wasn't intended, but it was a game time moment. They learned from it, right? But the real thing was Jesus wanted to bring them to this island, or to this, not island, but to this area to show them something. What did they learn? Number one, sometimes people who are in bondage are not looking for freedom. They're not. The people would rather have Jesus leave than change their life, than hear from him. You've messed with my money. Why? Because that was their bondage. Jesus shows his disciples, look, points to the man, that's freedom. The man on his knees, in his right mind, that man's free. Jesus shows his disciples the town that are upset because now the loss of money, that's bondage. They're not free. This is why faith is so important. This is why they need to get that concept, that system of faith, is because it will not be easy trying to free others. And you need that faith. You need that faith in me to get this done. So the second thing is that people need hope. People need hope. You know, you might be someone's very last resort by just being in their life. You know, everyone is going to have a moment where they hear the gospel message one last time, and they won't even know it, right? We're all going to have that moment. But you might be that last resort in someone's life. You might be just your mere presence in their life and who you are and whose God created you to be. You might be their last resort. For people that are tired and have accepted their lives, their hurts and their habits, and just feel like their life's never going to change and nothing's ever going to get better for them, and they've just given up, you might be, just your presence and who you are might be their last resort, their last thing of hope. You know, when this kid, after the whole hospital incident, we continued to work with him, and the four of us, we would have to switch. We'd all take turns being his one-on-one, and we'd switch because he was, diabolical. And there's only so much we could take. And so after a couple weeks, we'd switch to somebody else, and the rest of us would get rest. But we found something very interesting, is that when I was his one-on-one, he was much more open and able to listen to the other three. And when one of those was his one-on-one, then he was able to listen to me. But the thing is, all we did was just stay present in his life. He knew who we were. He knew what we were about. He knew what we did outside of the job for other kids. And that stuff impacted him. Over time, he got better and better and better. And then one day, he went to a church service, a youth group, not any of ours, but he came back and told us all about it. And he changed just like that. He had that freedom immediately. He went from an emotionally disturbed boy that would just spew hate and all that kind of stuff to just being a normal teenage boy that, can be a jerk sometimes. He still had some growing to do, but he was free like that. 100% free. Eventually, he went on and was able to leave the school and attend a a public school, and join the football team. He knew that we loved football, so he'd talk to us about that. He would talk to us about the things about God, and we would stay in touch. And I can remember I've been working with kids one-on-one for many years. I've had many different one-on-one kids. There's only been 2 kids that ever met my family, and he was the first. There was the time where he got to the point where he said, "Hey, I want you to come see one of my football games." It was a senior year. Come see my football games. See what I do. And I remember I took my wife, and there was another one of the guys took his wife. We went, we watched the game. We saw him, and I got to see exactly who God created him to be. Not the football player, but the leader that he was on the field. I got to see that. After the game, we met, we hugged. He just was telling us how thankful he is. And I got to see God work in his life. He met my wife, and it was a cool experience. He's gone on to do amazing things. I'm still in touch with him. He got to be a youth leader at some time for churches. I think he's working on his becoming a teacher. He actually just got his master's degree, which I'm like, dang, dude, you got more education than I do now, right? But it was amazing to see this journey that this kid took because we were present. And again, it was God, because there were times where I'm like, I'm done with this kid. I'm done, But it was definitely God's grace. But being present in people's life, being that last hope for somebody, he completely changed his life. So this is it. He now has a testimony that he can use to help other kids. He now has a story that he can talk about where he was, and he could talk about how he was in that hospital and how he got out of it. because of God. So that leads us to the next thing. Your story is the best weapon for the kingdom. There is no weapon greater. Jesus left the guy with a bunch of pig farmers, angry pig farmers at that now have no pigs. He left them there. Why? Because his testimony was going to be the best weapon in that area. He has now been freed and saved. 1 Peter 2:9 says this, "But you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness and into his wonderful light." We've all had those moments. We've all been called out of darkness. We all have a story. And why? Because we're a special possession. And now we're to sing those praises to him. We are to share it. We are to use it. Jesus empowered that man to do the work of the kingdom and left. Like, he's like, I got to still work with these disciples, but you're good. You got it. But I'm going to work with these guys some more. And left them. So here's the question. We all have a testimony, but what are you doing with it? We all have moments that God worked in our lives. What are you doing with those stories? It's the thing that no one can ever take it away from you. It's your best weapon. No one can ever deny the work that God did in your own life. It's the closest thing. You can talk about your relationship and have influence over other people. You have to use your testimony. Jesus wants to empower you to work into his kingdom. He wants you to empower you to work in his kingdom for your home, at your work, at your job place, in your families. And I get it. Maybe you're like a little nervous. I'm like, well, I don't know how to do that. How do I even begin to do that? I'm like, well, church is a good place to start. Come join a ministry. It's a perfect place. And then once you learn and grow, and then you can talk to your family. Because I know sometimes the family or your workplace, that's the hardest place to talk. But the church is a great place to start. Share your story here first. So I want to just talk about what's going on in our church right now. What's going on in our church right now? Pastor Mandy, our youth pastor, just got done doing a week long of camp where no other camps are happening right now. I like to point out to the kids that how lucky they are to have her, because there are a lot of pastors that are just phoning it in. Youth pastors are like, well, there's nothing we can do. But she's working hard to create a space as much as we can, despite how, it's not what we do as normal. But she's working hard to get these kids connected. And not only that, in this weird time that we're having, she's creating an army and sense of kingdom workers that are ready and willing to serve the kingdom. Wouldn't you want to be a part of something like that? Wouldn't you want to come alongside her and help her do that work? Sarah Frias, our children's director, she is creating a culture and atmosphere in our children's place where they can come and sing and dance and not be ashamed and learn the Bible and not let it be this, this burdensome thing, but a fun place to learn. My kids have not been in church since March, and there is something when they came back these last 2 weeks, just to be in the building, the excitement and the fun, and them not wanting to leave. It's because Sarah and Laura have created this place where they love to come. And as a parent, I don't know if she'll ever know just how grateful I am that my kids love to come to church. That is something in their lives that they look forward to. She came and was dropping off because she wants to stay connected to her kids, because we can't have our children's ministry and a video is just not enough. She has been going to houses and dropping off these bags, these care packages every month and giving them to the kids. And when she came to our house, my kids just bolted out the door. And I'm like, what are you doing? It's strangers. They're like, no, it's Sarah. And they came and they hugged her. Why? Because she's creating those things and this environment for kids to learn and to grow. And I'm going to ask you, wouldn't that sound something you want to be a part of? To be a part of that. I got to spend time with the marriage ministry last night and hearing their hearts and their desires to want to create a space where healthy marriages happen, where people can talk about it and people can come and just have fun with their spouses again. Fun with their spouses. That's something that gets lost. And it's by no fault of anyone's own. We get it. Kids and life gets in the way. But here in this church, there is a group of people that are saying we want to create those experiences of fun to bring back into the marriages. Isn't that something you'd want to be a part of? Our food bank is doing an amazing thing in a time where other food banks are shutting down. They're getting creative on ways to feed more and more people. They're getting more donations, more food, and it's just becoming this well-oiled machine. Well, and honestly, it always was, but it's even more now. And they are doing literally working the hands and foot of God, helping people just to get by. Isn't that something you'd want to be a part of? We have men's groups, men's meetings that are doing amazing things. They're still being connected on Zoom. I'm in one of them. I'm learning a lot from them. Isn't that something you want to be a part of? And then you got the women's group. Well, they're the women's group. They've always been great. They're always doing good things. They're the crown, one of the crowns of the church that we look to. Like, wow, they are so creative. They are so awesome. And I love our women's group, even though I don't get to come. But it's still, they do amazing things. And wouldn't that be something you want to be a part of? Look, I get it. This is a weird time to be promoting ministries in the church because, well, there's not much to do. But there's not a better time right now to have these conversations. Because here's the deal. And if Landon wants to come on up. Here's the deal. This whole COVID thing's going to end. And when it does, we're going to need people. Because, I know we've prayed and we've asked so many times, like, this COVID time is going to bring a lot of people to God, but I really do think it's also going to birth new leaders. It's going to birth new leaders to lead God's church. Not only that, but it's going to rebirth leadership in people that maybe had this desire or had moments of leadership in the past, but now there's a desire to get plugged back in. Because the thing that God gave you, to lead and to do, it hasn't been taken away. You're not disqualified. He wants you to do the very things he's created you to do. And I really think this time is creating that. New leaders and leaders being reborn. We're going to need it. We're going to need help. If we're going to do kingdom work the way it's supposed to do, we need everyone, all hands on deck. There used to be this saying, it still is, that every member is a minister here. Pastor Josh likes to say that everybody gets to play. No one sits on the bench. Your story, your testimony, and I get it. You can say, well, I didn't do really, I don't have this crazy testimony about drugs or all this kind of stuff. I was just raised normal. And I'm like, don't you get it? That's a testimony in itself that God did that. Use your story. Feel empowered to work in the kingdom. Everybody gets to play. Jesus got into the boat and left the man with the pig farmers and left because they wanted him to go. And he left. He went. The next time Jesus comes into this region, in this kind of region area, he has to feed 5,000 people miraculously because they won't leave him. What did that guy tell the people? What was his story? The Bible says people were amazed at what he said. But that led to 5,000 people. I don't know. Look, for the kingdom, know this. Number one, your scars are your best weapon. Your scars, your story is your best weapon you can have. Those hard times that you experience, God says, I'm not going to waste that. I'm going to use that. It's your best weapon. Number two, but you got to get this faith thing right. You got to understand because those hard times are going to come back and you got to be strong in the faith. You got to put your faith in me. And again, it's not about how much you have. It's about where you put your faith. Keep your faith in me. Because why? People need to be freed. They need to be freed, whether they know it or not. They need to be freed. You are a royal priesthood, God's special possession, who called you out of darkness and into his wonderful light. Use what God has done for you. Amen? Amen.